Hey guys, it's Jess for the Virtually Visual. Welcome to the channel if you're new, and welcome back if you're coming back. Today we have a really cool tutorial. We're going to be diving into the new particle system. Specifically, we're going to be seeing how we can make a kind of Pyro cloud, but the Pyro is actually our particles being emitted. So particles will just follow the shape of the Pyro simulation. Not too complicated, though there are just some settings to be kind of mindful of as you're building. So yeah. Oh, also just a reminder that I have a Gumroad shop. I've got a bunch of free and some paid resources on there. My newest one is a ceramic material that is super customizable. It's totally procedural. There's no images in here. All of this is made using noises, and it's actually the first shader I've made that is compatible both with Redshift and Cinema 4D, but also Redshift in Houdini. So if you're a Houdini artist, I'd really appreciate any feedback you guys have. Yeah, let's continue on to the video. Per usual, you guys know I am starting with a backdrop and a figure just for scale. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drop in a sphere. And then I'm just going to scale this down, pull it up. And I'm going to set this to like 10 centimeters for the radius. And then we're going to just go and right click on the sphere and go to Simulation Tags, Pyro Emitter. And that will also generate a Pyro output object. So by default, if we just hit play, it will look like this. Not too bad for use in our Pyro simulation, but it is a little bit choppy. As you can see, like we got these ridges and it's just kind of low res. So I think the way we fix that is we go to simulation by hitting Command D, and then you're gonna go to the Pyro tab, and then this voxel size is what affects that. So let's just take that down to like 2. And if your machine can't handle that, then maybe try 3 or 4, but I'm gonna try 2. And yeah, you can see this is much more detailed. So I like that. I also like to go in, I have no idea really how much this affects anything, but I like to take this fluid force factor up to like 10. And then let's check that again. It just behaves a little bit more fluid-like, I think. And then here we're gonna change a couple of things as well. We're going to take down fuel burning rate, I think. And then temperature we don't need. I don't think we need fuel. That should be off. Velocity, I think we're good. But when it comes to density, I think we want to take this down to 0. This will make everything look a little bit more intense. Yeah, I like how that looks, but the temperature is still, I think we have to click on our Pyro out, or our Pyro tag again. So let's turn off temperature and let's check some of these other settings. Let's just see what that's like. Okay, much better. So I think I like that. Let's also increase our frames to like 300. Let's just see. Cool. And then just to save time, I'm gonna only have it emit for a little bit. So I'm gonna go to, I think frame 70. I'm gonna click on our Pyro tag and I'm gonna keyframe our enabled section. And I'm gonna go to 80 and I'm gonna uncheck that and then keyframe. So let's see what that does. Yeah, because I kind of, actually it might even be sooner that I want to turn that off. It's hard to tell sometimes if the stuff in the emitter tag is what's affecting most of it, or if it's the stuff here in the simulation settings. Let's take velocity damping back down to 5. In our emitter tag, I'm going to try taking the noise scale up to 400. I want to see what that does. I think that gives a little bit more of a unique shape. Yeah, I think I like that. Let's also get rid of the figure because I don't think we need that anymore. And let's set up a camera so we kind of know where we'll be looking. So I just went down here, added a camera, and then I'm going to set the focal length to 120. And I'm going to try to line this up holding Alt and then using my left mouse and middle mouse buttons to rotate and move around. let's say I'm gonna want the camera there. I'm also gonna click on our backdrop and go to coordinates. I'm gonna rotate this. And then I'm also, I think, going to hit Command D, go back to our Pyro settings, and I'm gonna take our voxel size down to 0.5, I think, and redo this. Yeah, I'm liking that. So let's say we're happy with our Pyro simulation. I'm gonna rename our sphere to Pyrosphere. Before we add our particles, we actually want to add 2 simulation scenes. And one of these is going to go below the Pyro stuff, and this will be called Pyro or particle settings. And then the one up top will be our Pyro settings. So before we add our particle emitters, let's go to our Pyro settings and let's drag in our Pyro, or not our Pyro output, our Pyro tag. Whoops. You're gonna want to drag the Pyro tag in here, and sometimes it creates another Pyro output when you do this. So just be mindful of that, keep an eye on it. But let's go to our Pyro settings, and so yeah, we've got our element in there. Let's go to the Pyro tab and go down and uncheck Draw Pyro. And then particle settings, let's see here. We also want to uncheck Draw Pyro. And for scene, we'll mess with that in a minute. So it's time to add our particles. So let's go up to Simulate, and we'll find our new particle stuff right here. We've got emitters, groups, conditions, and modifiers. In emitters, we're going to be using the mesh emitter. And let's drag this into our particle settings as well as the particle group that it created. And in the mesh emitter, we're going to drag in our Pyrosphere. And then we'll do shot, and let's say 10,000. And then let's go to properties and turn off the velocity. And then we can go to our particle group, and we're going to go up to simulate forces and add a field force and drag that into your particle group. Any forces you add to the particle group will only affect those particles, so that's kind of nice. It's a pretty custom way to do things. And then in this field force, we're going to drag in our Pyro output. It gets confusing when you have to drag the different things to different spots, but make sure you're dragging your Pyro output in there. And then we're going to change this add to velocity to set absolute velocity and change this number to 1. Let's just see if that's doing anything. Okay, so it's emitting on the sphere, but it's not following the movement yet. In particle settings, we want to make sure we also drag in our field force to the forces tab. Let's also drag our Pyro settings into the Pyro scene portion. Let's see if that did it. Okay, so yeah, you may see the particles are moving, but we've also got these giant bounding box things showing up. So let's just turn off in the viewport the Pyro output. I think that should take care of that. Yep. So now you can see that our particles are following the Pyro output itself. So because we have the simulation settings, it actually has changed the details we did in our Pyro simulation. So feel free to go back and match that to the values we used before. I'm going to just change our voxel size down to 2 once again, or actually I think I'll just do 1 since I think we did 0.5 before. And I'm going to take fluid force back up to 10. I'm going to go down to density and turn off the density dissipation. Okay, pretty cool. Then though, I'm kind of thinking we don't have enough particles and they're a little bit too big. So let's go to our mesh emitter, change the radius to like 0.3, go to our particle settings, go to the particles tab, and then I believe it is here that we change this to like our 0.3 number as well. But let me check. Particle group. Let's also go back to our mesh emitter and change the count to, I'm gonna say 50,000. I know my machine can handle that, but if yours can't, feel free to keep it at 10,000. So there you go. You can see the cloud itself is set up. Okay, so let's say we've got the simulation itself that we like. We're going to go to our particle group, and then we're going to go to cache, and you're going to hit cache object, And then you're going to choose a spot to cache this. So I'm just going to do that now. And you're just going to let this run. And now we can scrub through and our simulation plays much faster. So what I'm actually going to do now, I'm going to save for one. And then I'm going to highlight our backdrop, our camera, and I think that's it. And I'm going to just hit Control-C to copy. And we're actually going to open a new scene. And then you're going to paste those in. And then what we're going to do, don't freak out, we don't have the particles in here. But what you're going to do, go up to Simulate, Group, Particle Group. And in here, you'll notice they have a checkbox for cache mode. If you check that and then hit the folder icon next to Path to Alembic File and find that cache that we just saved out. So now when we scrub through actually let me extend the frames, 180. But now our particles are loaded right in here. I heard from somebody else that this is just a better way for your computer's performance to then work with the scene. So I just like to do this so that things are a little faster and I'm not ever simulating anything again. Once I'm happy with my actual Pyro stuff, I don't need to worry about that anymore. Now you may be thinking, okay, great, but I don't like these particles and how they look. What we can do is on our particle group, let's first add the redshift object tag. And in our visibility, or in our particles tab, we're gonna add custom objects. If you want, you could just do optimize spheres. And let me pull in a dome light and I'll show you what that looks like in our render view. Okay, so by default with the optimized spheres, this is what your particles are going to look like. Let me reframe this a little bit. Maybe that will be a little nicer. But what if we want to add a redshift material tag to these particles? Well, you can just create a new standard material. And then you can actually just drag that right onto the particle group, and that will do it. But you may be wondering, okay, cool. I like the ability to be able to edit this standard material, but what about something like using custom objects for your particles? That is also really easy. So let's close this materials for now, and let's pause our IPR. I'm actually going to get out of our camera view for a moment. You're going to change from optimized spheres to custom objects. And then you're actually going to just drag your clover flower in there. Let's just do a platonic shape. Let's change this to like 5. And let's put that in there. Let's just see. So that's pretty cool looking. They almost look like paper shapes. And I'm going to duplicate this platonic a couple times. And I'm also going to drag those in here, because I want to have a few color variations, so I'm just going to assign different materials to each of these platonics. Let's create a new redshift standard material. I'm going to call this Platonic 1, Platonic 2, and Platonic 3. And then these will be the colors for each of our platonics. So let's make the first one white because I liked how that looked. Let's make the second one, I don't know, let's try it like a yellow, or actually that pinkish color was kind of nice. And then the third one, maybe purple. Try, oh, and also it's hidden under my activate windows thing here, but it says distribution is sequential. Let's change that to random, so it's a little bit more spread out. And if you, the scale multiplier at the very bottom, you can use to control the size of the objects as well. So if you do 0.1, they're going to be insanely small. And if you do 2, they're going to be huge. So I'm just going to keep this at 1, I think. We could also go and change our camera optical settings. So we have some bokeh. Let's change the aperture to like 1.8, be really low. And then you can use this icon in the redshift render viewer to pick a spot you want focus. So that's kind of nice. Yeah, that is kind of the gist. So that's a way you could just, you know, pull in random objects that you want to use as an instance of your particles. But let's say you just want to use the default particles that it comes with, but you want to know how to get like random noise of colors on your particles. Let's go back to our actual particle scene. Okay, so we're back in our scene. Let's zoom in. I don't know why the bounding box came back. Okay, I don't know why it adds this weird bounding box in some of the Pyro settings. I've never been able to figure that out. So just ignore that if you see that. It won't show up in the renders. Let's see. But if you want to change the color, you do have to have that on, and we're going to actually have to recache the particles itself, because whatever color the particles are when you cache, it will be that color when you load them anywhere. So let's talk about how we get a different color on here. First, we got to go back to the Simulate tab, and we're going to go to Modifier and hit Color Mapper. And you're also going to drag this under the particle group. And you're going to go in this source area and you're going to hit Noise. And you don't need to mess with anything there yet. Let's go to our Cache tab in Particle Group. And let's clear the object cache. And let's cache the object again. So you can probably see it through the haze of these weird little items. I don't know, lines. I don't know why those show up. It's really annoying. But the particles are now a different color. So that's kind of how I got different particles in my posts on Instagram. Super easy. And you could also drag a redshift material onto this particle group to add some of the like roughness and subsurface and that kind of thing if you wanted to on top of the colors, but totally not necessary, just optional. Just find a shot that we like. So if we hit play on our render view, here's what we're dealing with, and I still need to add the dome light because this was our default scene. Let's add our render tag, our redshift object tag here. Change this to custom or optimize spheres. Let's say you're like, these are not enough particles. If that's the case, we're gonna need to clear the cache again, unfortunately, but you'll just change the count here in the emission mode. But let's also pick a different gradient because I'm not a huge fan of that. They've added some new gradients too, which is pretty nice. Their black violet orange is kind of nice. Let's try changing the count to, let's try 300,000. Okay, we got to clear the cache first. Let's go to draw. Let's change the size to 0.3 here. And let's cache this again. You can tell we've got more particles. Let's hit play on our render view. Okay, more particles. Let's go to our redshift object tag. I'm going to take the scale multiplier down. Let's try 0.3. So that's what that looks like. If you're like, I still don't have enough particles, again, you can up the emitter. I think I saw someone did like 2 million and that was a lot, but it's worth trying. Let's take this to like 0.5 maybe, or maybe 0.7 just for now. Let's create a new material and throw that on our backdrop. Then I also want to add a interesting light. Let's add one to our backdrop. Let's take the spread down and the intensity down. Maybe to like 25. Actually, the spread we should have it maybe like 0.5. And we'll have that in the bottom corner. And I'm going to change the color to maybe also like a yellowish. And then I want to add another light, and I'm going to put this one in the same kind of spot. Take the spread way down, and we still have to fix our optical settings on the main scene. 0.5, hit bokeh, hit a spot to focus on. Maybe we actually want the aperture like 1. I like how that looks. I still have to create our redshift material that we'll throw on the particle group. And what we need to do here so that it inherits the color mapper data is you double click on your material and then double click in here and search color user data, add that and connect that to the color. And then here in the presets, you're going to go to particles, particle color. Drag this over top of your material and then go down to subsurface color as well. And this way, if you want to add any subsurface and change the radius and stuff, it'll still use these colors as the base. So if I drag that all the way up, it will work, but it will be faded because it will be having light pass through with white undertones. So I'm going to change this to like 0.3. But yeah, that is kind of the gist of that. It's annoying that to change the colors, I need to clear the cache, but let me do that. So I think those colors are fun. I'm also going to adjust the color on our area light, increase our subsurface radius again, or I mean our weight, sorry. And I think I'm going to render this one out. Yeah, that's kind of it, guys. The new particle system is super powerful. I also really want to do a tutorial incorporating the flock modifier because I think that's super interesting. Mikhail Sedov from Subframe Studio also has covered this feature. He has a really great tutorial and some really beautiful animations out there using the new particle system. So I also highly recommend checking out his tutorial and also his Patreon. I'm a big fan of it. He posts a lot of great stuff. Yeah, this was how to do these Pyro particle clouds in Cinema 4D with the new system for particles. I hope you guys learned something. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next tutorial. See ya.